I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today we have with us the Alzheimer's Association, Detroit Area Chapter. Hurry back and join us. Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today we have with us the Alzheimer's Association, Detroit Area Chapter. We have the Director of Education and Training, Marie DiCostanza, and Kim White, Special Events Coordinator. Hi, ladies.
Hi, how you doing?
Glad to have you on the show.
Nice to be here.
Thank you. Marie, I want to start off with you and ask you, can you give us the history of the Alzheimer's Association?
Sure. The Alzheimer's Association is a non-profit voluntary health organization, and we're dedicated to providing services and programs for people with Alzheimer's disease and their families. And we've been in this area for approximately 17 years, been around quite a while. We're one of 10 chapters in Michigan and part of the National Association out of Chicago.
Okay. And basically, can you give us some history on what Alzheimer's is?
Sure. Alzheimer's disease is a degenerative brain disease, a progressive degenerative brain disease, and affects people's memory, thinking, and judgment. It affects people primarily in their later years, but can also affect people in their 40s and 50s. The biggest risk factor is age. So the older someone gets, the higher their risk for developing the disease. And in this area of Michigan, there are approximately 65,000 diagnosed cases of Alzheimer's disease. So it's quite a problem.
Now, are there any particular signs or symptoms that loved ones can look out for to determine it, or not determine, but be able to detect there may be a change in someone?
Yeah, the main symptom is memory loss, and it's a little different than what we normally have as memory loss. I think everyone has forgotten where you parked the car in the parking lot, or you misplace your keys, or you can't recall something. But with Alzheimer's disease, the memory loss is profound memory loss, where it affects your ability to do everyday chores, very poor judgment. For instance, sometimes people will allow strangers to come into their house, personality changes, things like that. Something that's very profound.
I know something about the constant walking. Sometimes a person will go for a walk and may get lost, can't remember where they come from or how far they've gone away from home or something.
Yeah.
Is that one of the signs?
That's one of the problem behaviors that we see with Alzheimer's disease, and it's wandering. Okay. And there's a lot of different reasons for wandering. It can be the fact that someone is searching for something. It could be a need to exercise. It could be the fact that that's just the only thing the person knows how to do, or they may be trying to go somewhere, but they just don't know where.
Okay. So there's no real such thing as being senile anymore. Is that?
That's absolutely correct.
Okay.
That's absolutely correct. Alzheimer's disease has been around for a long time. It was discovered in the early 1900s, but really we haven't heard about it until probably the last 20 years. And it used to be called senility or organic brain syndrome, but now we can be a little more specific. And it's one of several dementias that people can have. Dementia is a group of symptoms, and Alzheimer's disease is a specific disease.
Does it come gradually?
It does. It does come gradually, and that's how it differs from something like multi-infarct dementia, where people would have mini strokes. If you have a mini stroke, you may have people would be able to say, yes, on August 5th, Mom's started to have problems, and then it leveled off, and it's more of a stepwise pattern. Okay. But with Alzheimer's disease, it's more of its declining slope.
Okay. Now, does your agency house any physicians at all?
No, we are a service agency where we will provide information referral to people. We can give them a list of physicians. We always tell people to get a good diagnosis, because there's lots of reasons for confusion and memory loss, and some of those can be reversed. Someone could have maybe a vitamin deficiency, or could be suffering from depression. They could have adverse drug reactions. They could be, it could be alcohol related. All different reasons for memory loss, and some of them are reversible. So that's why we really encourage people to get a good, thorough workup. And if they call the Alzheimer's Association, we can give them a list of different physicians, either a neurologist or a geriatrician or a geriatric psychiatrist, or someone who is knowledgeable in the field and able to make a good diagnosis and do a thorough workup.
Now let me ask you this, is there a particular core group, such as men versus women, that may have Alzheimer's, or race, black or white? Is there any? It
doesn't discriminate. It affects men and women, different ethnic groups. Although there is a recent study out of Colombia that is showing that African Americans and Hispanics may have a higher risk of developing the disease, but they need to duplicate that study. It's nothing concrete yet. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Kim, let me turn over to you for a second and ask you, as special event coordinator, what type of events do you have involved?
Well, we have 3 events during the year, 3 major special events. I'll talk about the 2 that aren't as immediate. The first one that we have during the year is our Bowling Bonanza, and it's usually held in March, and this year, or the next one we'll be having will be March 6th of 1999. And we are able to accommodate about 650 bowlers, and we have corporate sponsors that sponsor each of the lanes, and we have door prizes, and it's a real fun family event. Our event that happens at the end of the year is our Chocolate Jubilee. That's in November at the Ritz-Carlton.
We'll be there.
And of course,
it's wonderful.
Whenever you say chocolate, it immediately gets a lot of people involved. But we get about 1,600 or 1,700 people at that event, including 25 media celebrities. And it's really a 2-part event. We have a luncheon where there's a featured speaker. This past November, we had Lindsay Smalley, who her father suffered from Alzheimer's disease, and she writes some beautiful poetry about her experience with that. And we have a luncheon, and then following that we have the actual Jubilee, where we have about 30 chocolate vendors, and they give out samples of their products to everyone who walks through.
So there's no diet during the month of November?
No, absolutely not.
Now, I am familiar that you all have a calendar of events that come out, or what is one of your programs that, you know, a person can actually just attend?
Well, we do have educational programs that occur throughout the year, and we have a calendar of all our education activities that we have. In addition, we have an agency newsletter that comes out 4 times a year that lists our events that are upcoming. And our special event that's coming up most immediately is the Memory Walk at the Detroit Zoo. And it's on August 22nd. And we'll be hosting probably about 2,000 walkers this year. And we're keeping our fingers crossed that Shelley Fabre may be able to come out. She is one of the national chairs of the Memory Walk, and she was on the show Coach, and her mother had Alzheimer's disease, and she's been the National Memory Walk chair for a number of years now. As well as some other actors. David Hyde Pierce from the show Frasier is also a National Memory Walk chair, and sportscaster Tim Ryan, as well as Maureen Reagan, whose father, Ronald Reagan, has Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah, I noticed a couple of days ago on the news they were doing a small feature on Ronald Reagan. Okay. So basically, there is something going on all year long to keep the public aware of.
Yeah, and I'd just like to mention the educational programs that we have. We offer educational workshops. We call them caregiver orientation workshops. We offer them at least 1 each month in our service area, which includes Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, St. Clair, and informally Sanilac and Huron counties. But we have a core of workshops at St. David's in Southfield, St. David's Episcopal Church, and they're 3-part workshops. They look at an overview of the disease, we look at managing problem behaviors, communication skills, and also the legal and financial aspects. And we also look at the community resources that are available to the families.
Now, is it hard for someone to bring in their family member and say, Mom, Dad has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and what can you do? Is it hard for the person to come in?
I think one of the reasons why, and I'll answer your question with another dimension of another question, but a lot of people say, why don't more people know about the Alzheimer's Association? And I think one of the reasons why is because it is a very difficult disease to face for many reasons. One reason being that it is a mental illness, and there's it's a dementing illness that there's a stigma attached to in society, and so people also tend to want to deal with that within the family and not go public with it necessarily. And if you think of how long it may have taken for Ronald Reagan to come out and say, I have Alzheimer's disease, when he probably knew about it quite a long time before he finally revealed it. I mean, that's a pretty dramatic demonstration of how difficult it is when he's a person who's very respected. I mean, who would even imagine that he would have difficulty admitting this when it's nothing that was in his control? But there is a certain discomfort with saying, I have Alzheimer's disease. And one of the things that we do in terms of educating physicians and how to diagnose it, we hope that more people will get diagnosed. Because while people aren't aware that Alzheimer's disease is what a loved one is suffering from, they may be avoiding really getting help for it. So I think it is hard for people to...
I can imagine. So do your agency provide any workshops for family members, such as like how to cope with, or what to do when a family member has been diagnosed?
We cover all that in the orientation workshops. And we also have support groups, which are very important to people who are dealing with the disease, not only for the family members, but we also have 3 early stage support groups for people who have been newly diagnosed. So it's really important that people get involved with the support group. We have 50 different support groups throughout our service area. So there's a group for everyone, different days of the week, different times of the day. We have a special group for children whose parent or grandparent may be suffering from Alzheimer's disease. And I think one of the things that Kim pointed out was, it is a disease, and it's a brain disease, and it's really important for people to seek help and to get a good diagnosis, because it is not a normal part of aging. It's not normal for people to have profound memory loss.
I'm sure children are probably really delicate to deal with when it comes to trying to understand how their parent or grandparent is all of a sudden somewhat imbalanced in knowing who they are and where they're at and things like that. So that's got to be something difficult to relate to.
Yeah, it's hard for the kids. It's hard for everyone. It's hard for spouses or for children or whomever. And so I think the more that you know about the disease and the more you can understand what's going on with the brain and the fact that this disease is deteriorating the brain, the easier it is to understand someone's behavior and what's going on with them and why they're acting the way they're acting. That people don't act this way because they want to act this way. It's just the fact that they're unable to process information or recall some of those memories that you need to function.
That's quite stressful. Very stressful to the entire family. Okay, but do you call them clients, customers, patients? What are the people considered when they come to you?
Different things, because of the different programs that we have.
Right, and the different relationships that we have with. But, I mean, I think, there are people living with Alzheimer's. I mean, they're not our patients because we're not medical professionals, but they're people living with Alzheimer's and their families. I think that's probably how we refer to them.
Well, ladies, let's take a commercial break and catch up on a little more information in the second half. We'll be right back.
Make Alzheimer's a distant memory.
Hi, and welcome back to the second half of the show. For those of you who are just joining us, we have the Alzheimer's Association Detroit Area Chapter, Marie DiCostanza and Kim White. Ladies, we left off with some very serious questions here. I had one in particular I want to ask you. Marie, can you tell us some of the programs that are additional to some of the services that you provide?
Sure. We have whole variety of programs and services, and I think one of the most important is our telephone helpline, and that is staffed by volunteers from 9 in the morning until 4 in the afternoon, Monday through Friday, and they're well trained and they are able to give people all the information they need to deal with the disease. For instance, we talked earlier about getting a list of physicians if you needed a diagnosis. If you need to know what assisted living facilities are in, for instance, Macomb County, we can get a list to you and also send you a list of questions to ask when you go into an assisted living facility. But any kind of problems that come up, any kind of resources that people need, the telephone helpline volunteers can put them in touch with those resources. So that's a real important piece of our services. We also have respite services, and for people that don't know, respite means giving the caregiver a break. So we have two types of respite. We have in-home respite, where people come into the home and give the caregiver a break for a 4-hour period of time. And then we also have group respite, and I think people would be familiar with the term adult daycare for group respite. So we have 3 different group respite sites, one in Birmingham at the Beaumont Rehab Center, and 2 in Detroit, one at the Joseph Walker Williams Center and our new site in Southwest Detroit. So that helps the caregiver as well. We have counseling and care management services. We have the educational programs that we spoke about earlier. We have autopsy assistance, and we also do advocacy work for different legislative issues.
That's a whole host of things in there. Okay.
And one more thing, we also register people in the Safe Return program, which is a national wandering rescue program. And as you were talking earlier about some people tend to wander, and the Safe Return program will register the person, gives them a bracelet, a national ID number, and it also gives the caregiver some identification information also, so that if someone does wander and they're found by a police officer, and part of what we do too is we educate police officers about the Safe Return program.
Now, that's helpful, very helpful.
And so if someone wanders, they can be returned home.
Now, when the person wanders, how soon would they, I mean, does a family member say, well, my aunt or whatever needs to be ID'd so that, because she was a wanderer. So if my aunt's still at home and she does have Alzheimer's, but we have not decided to put her in a program of any sort, can we come in and have her registered and ID'd in case she wanders off again?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, and we encourage people to do that before wandering becomes a problem, because you never know when every person with Alzheimer's does not wander, but it is a common symptom that we see. So if people are enrolled in the program early, then you don't have to worry about that. At least you know that there's ID on them.
Right. That's nice. I mean, you know, not just nice, but it helps because you see people all the time walking the streets and you have no idea if they're lost or not, and the way society is now, we're not that helpful when we see people walking along the streets. You know, I mean, you really have to be crying or something for someone to stop and help you, but this way, if our safety patrol police officers are, you know, helpful and stop somebody, they can see. So it can be a bracelet or a necklace, or it's just a bracelet.
A bracelet or a necklace, and there's also ID for the clothing. And also you can get the identification for the caregiver, so that if you're the caregiver for a person with Alzheimer's and there's no one else in the home and something happens to the caregiver, and emergency people come in and they find the caregiver, then there's some identification that says, I'm the caregiver for someone with Alzheimer's, this is the emergency contact.
Okay.
You know, so you need to contact someone to take care of the person with Alzheimer's while the caregiver is being cared for.
All right. Well, do you have a great turnout for that?
Yeah, we have over 400 families currently in the program.
I'm sure that eases the mind some, you know, when you do things like that. So that way,
absolutely.
You're right.
But a lot of people aren't aware of the program. A lot of people, like Kim mentioned, aren't aware of the association. So,
well, they will be today.
Well, we hope so.
Okay. Okay. So with all these type of, what is your staff made up? I mean, is it like physicians, social workers, volunteers? Is just a whole host of good-natured people?
A lot of volunteers.
We have about 350 volunteers.
Okay.
So that's about 10 times as many volunteers as we have paid staff, actually. And our staff have degrees in social work, gerontology, geriatrics. They have a lot of different backgrounds, but they're all at our agency because they're interested in helping people and being in a helping profession. And so we, if people of all different qualifications, we have a medical and scientific advisory council that is made up of physicians and other health professionals, but they're voluntary also. They serve in a voluntary capacity. So we have we depend heavily on volunteers, and if someone sees this show and is interested in volunteering for the Alzheimer's Association, they can call our number and let us know what they're interested in, and we actually have a volunteer packet so they can see what options are available.
Okay. You got a number for us, Kim?
Sure. 248-557-8277.
Okay. Okay. So any general information they want to know.
That's our number.
Okay. Okay. Now the walkathon is basically, you say it's August?
The Memory Walk is on August 22nd, and it is every chapter in the country hosts a Memory Walk. There are over 200 chapters in the country. We're in the top probably 5 or 6, by the way, so we're one of the largest chapters in the country, and we have one of the largest walks. It's at the Detroit Zoo, and it's really a family event. It's a fun walk. It's only 2K, so it's very short, and it's really meant to be a stroll for people of all different levels of fitness.
Okay.
And we really depend a lot on corporate sponsorship, as well as teams from corporations, from families, from assisted living facilities who bring residents out, as well as staff. And it's really quite an amazing day to see all those people walking through the zoo. We have an opening program that this year is going to be hosted by John Conyers and Carolyn Cheeks-Kilpatrick, as well as some local representatives. And our closing program will feature Hugh Burrell, who was previously one of the Blue Pigs, the one-man Motown band. He's a wonderful entertainer. And we have door prizes and refreshments, and your registration entitles you to spend the rest of the day at the zoo. So
all right.
It's really a neat day. And to register, you can call our number, 248-557-8277. And there's a $10 registration fee, and then we ask for a $25 minimum in pledges from each person. And everyone gets a free T-shirt, and then all the rest of the fun of the day is theirs too, as well as the zoo.
Okay, okay.
And I'll mention one more thing also. If you're someone who pledges to raise $500, either as a captain of a team or as an individual, this year we're initiating a patron party that's being held at Woodruff's Supper Club, which has become a pretty noted restaurant now in Royal Oak. And it's a reception on July 27th, so it's prior to the walk about a month. And if you commit to raising that much money, to being a pace setter, we're calling it, then you get an invitation to this party, and we'll have entertainment and food and drinks, and you and a guest can come and enjoy and be honored by us, basically, for your commitment to helping out the agency and providing for the funds that can fund all these programs and services that help everyone.
You sound like you have an array of events to fulfill. And
oh, we do. We're always busy.
Okay. We want to do a shot on this here brochure. Can we get a shot on this brochure and let everybody know this is a very nice brochure? And you definitely have all your support groups. Has anyone got this shot? Okay, so that seems like it's really nice. Okay, and most definitely I see all your support groups and everything on the back. And now this information is application. What is the application basically for?
That's for membership to the Alzheimer's Association.
Okay.
And we have some of our funding, a large amount of our funding comes from individual contributions to the organization. And really, to become a member of the Alzheimer's Association, you don't even really have to send in any money, but many people like to, so we offer that as an option. But you can become a member and get our information in the mail and our newsletter.
Okay, so you give us a breakdown of the disease, the symptoms, and the treatment, and any additional information they want, or if they want to join, they can send back this form. Okay, can we get a shot of that? Okay.
And if you call our helpline, you really get a folder that's full of a lot of different pieces of information.
All right.
In addition to that brochure, we have a wealth of information.
Okay. And a wide group of volunteers that can tell us anything we want to know, and anybody that thinks they need some assistance. Let me ask you this. Now, with the children, I was surprised when you said that there's a program for children. So how does that come about?
That's a 10-week program for children, and it's structured so that they learn about the disease and learn how to understand the behaviors and understand the progression of the disease. So it makes it easier for them to cope.
Any age criteria for the children?
They look at children who are probably, I'm not sure the exact age.
7 to 14 is roughly.
So that they can understand.
Okay. Okay. And then, so it makes it more of an easier adjustment for them to not feel that the grandparent or the parent is ignoring them, or is, acting out differently than normal. This way, they can prepare themselves or understand that such and such is not feeling well? Do they think their parents or somebody's not feeling well, or how is it explained to them?
Well, they know something's going on, but again, even as adults, we don't understand the disease. We deal with it every day. But it's surprising how little people know about the disease. So, you know, each one handles it a little differently.
Okay. Okay. I was wondering about that. I couldn't, because I had never heard children being involved, and I think that's a plus to have the children involved so they would understand better, you know, what to look for and everything.
Well, again, the disease affects some people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, so it's good to have a group for children.
Okay. Well, ladies, we're getting ready to wrap up. Is there anything else you need to tell us? We're going to try to close with some of your video footage of your association, so is there anything else you need to tell us? Or
I would just encourage people, if you are concerned about memory loss or if you know someone with Alzheimer's disease, to call the association, make a contact so that we can get you the information you need.
Okay.
And I would ask that everyone make plans for August 22nd to come out to the Memory Walk, because they'll really be part of a special event, and we'd like to see them there.
Okay, can we get that number from you one more time, Kim?
Sure, it's 248-557-8277.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you all know, I'm your host, Marsha Florence, for Just Ask. If you know someone with a disability, don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. I'm your host, Marsha Florence, and we're going to close with some footage from the Alzheimer's Association, the Detroit area chapter. Thank you.
The clock. I just couldn't do things that I used to do, and I couldn't figure out why. Then I did figure out myself that it was Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's, a name associated with a currently incurable, debilitating disease that affects the brain as it gradually but continually destroys the victim's mental capacity. It's when old people go senile, is how many used to describe it. But now we know that Alzheimer's disease is not a normal part of the aging process. It is much more than just a disease of the elderly. Not only can adults in their 40s and 50s suffer from Alzheimer's, it is a disease that, without regard to wealth, social standing, or ethnic heritage, totally consumes the victim, their family, and friends. The mother of 3 sons and a daughter, Patty Lewis used to administer and manage large credit unions. In 1992, at the age of 51, Patty and her husband Jack learned that she had become a victim of Alzheimer's disease.
And I think that may have been the single most difficult moment of my life, to grab a hold of Patty and tell her that it was Alzheimer's. And I think that Patty already knew.
I did.
Today, there are over 4 million Americans affected by Alzheimer's disease. This number is expected to triple in the next 40 years. Nearly 100,000 people die each year from Alzheimer's, making it the 4th leading cause of death in adults. While most victims are over 65 years of age, it is also found in men and women in their 40s and 50s. Alzheimer's is a neurological disorder which cannot be cured.
It has made her suffer, actually. She anguishes over this feeling of, God, I can't do this. Things that we all take for granted. The laundry, the cooking, dialing a telephone, or reading the clock. Things that most of us don't give any conscious thought to. And the single biggest thing that I see is Patty struggling with the feeling that she can't do these things, or they're not coming out right, and then she feels devalued. I think of all of the things, the parts of this disease, at this stage, that's the single dominant point of it all.
The Alzheimer's Association provides a wide range of services for both those afflicted with the disease as well as those who love and care for them. Diane Wilkins is the executive director of the Detroit area chapter.
The association began in the early 1980s. It began with a group of caregivers, people who had a loved one who had Alzheimer's, and the caregivers didn't know where to turn or where to go for help. They were bewildered, and they started speaking to themselves and just kind of getting together informally, and they formed the National Alzheimer's Association. Since then, it has grown dramatically into a very large national organization. We have over 200 chapters in all 50 states. Clearly, the most important thing we do is provide services and programs to Alzheimer's patients and their families and loved ones. We do this through a variety of services. We also, through our multicultural outreach program, try to reach out to the various diverse individuals, families, and communities throughout the Detroit area. I think what we try to do is try to translate our concern, our commitment, and our care into the programs that we are providing for people. At our adult daycare, for example, we provide a lot of activities. It could be anything from exercise programs to artwork to woodworking. We do reminiscing. Also music and movement is a very big part of all of our programming. Our in-home respite program provides in-home care for Alzheimer's patients. This allows the caregiver to get out of the home for a break, to go shopping, go banking, whatever they need to do, but it provides some supervised care for the patient and also a break for the loved one. We have a